Have you ever asked yourself, why do the people I help the most hurt me the most? Why does loyalty disappear when you need it the most? Today, we face a hard truth. People don't betray you because they're evil, they betray because they're human. And Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. Betrayal, that sharp pain in your heart when someone you trusted turns away. You think it's personal, emotional, but it's not. It's strategic. People don't betray you by accident. They think, they plan, they measure. And when betrayal helps them, when it gives them more power, more advantage, they do it without guilt. In Machiavelli's world and in ours, loyalty is never permanent. It lasts only while both sides gain something. They stayed with you because you were useful to them. The moment you stopped being useful, or worse, became a threat, their loyalty ended. You called it friendship. They called it opportunity. Machiavelli once wrote, "It is safer to be feared than loved." Why? Because love fades. Gratitude disappears. But fear stays. Fear keeps betrayal away. You wanted to be loved. You believed kindness would bring loyalty. You thought being generous would earn respect. But in the real world, kindness often creates entitlement. The more you give, the more people expect. And when you finally say no, they call you selfish. That's when they twist the knife. They were never loyal to you, they were loyal to what you gave them. Every relationship has an invisible contract, a balance of power and benefit. When that balance breaks, people choose themselves. Not because they're monsters, but because they're human, driven by self-interest. Machiavelli never said people are good or bad. He said people are opportunists. They act based on gain. So when betraying you becomes more profitable than staying loyal, they switch sides and justify it later. They'll say you changed. They'll say you weren't fair. But the truth is simple. They betrayed you because loyalty stopped paying off. That's why betrayal always surprises the betrayed, but not the betrayer. You looked through the eyes of emotion, they looked through the eyes of strategy. Every compliment, every smile, every silence was part of a calculation. They were waiting for the right moment to move against you. And you, still believing in trust and honor, didn't see it. That's why Machiavelli said, never depend on loyalty. Create conditions where betrayal is dangerous. Because if people can betray you safely and gain from it, they will. They won't feel bad. They'll feel justified. Because to them, your value was gone. And in the world of power, being useless is worse than being hated. It means you've become invisible. So instead of asking, why did they do this to me? Ask, what did they gain? Ask, where did I make it easy? This isn't about becoming cruel. It's about understanding the game, seeing betrayal not as a moral failure, but as a strategic move. Once you understand that, you stop feeling broken and start becoming powerful. You think betrayal comes suddenly, but the truth is, you invited it with your openness. You believed that being kind and open was strength. But in Machiavelli's world, openness is an invitation, an unlocked gate. You revealed your fears, your dreams, your weaknesses, and they took notes. They weren't listening with empathy, they were studying you for leverage. Machiavelli advised rulers to be both a lion and a fox, strong but cunning. You were neither. You thought transparency builds connection, but in a world of self-interest, it builds targets. Once people know what you love, they know how to control you. Once they know what you fear, they know how to manipulate you. And when you give people access to your life without demanding loyalty, you give them the power to hurt you. People don't value what comes easy. They respect what has a price. They protect what is dangerous to lose. You were too easy to reach, too easy to read, too easy to hurt, and that created the perfect conditions for betrayal. History repeats this lesson. Caesar, killed by his closest friends. Kings, betrayed by their own advisors. Because they believed favors create loyalty. But favors only create dependence, and dependence always grows into resentment. The more you give, the more they want to be free of you. Even if that means stabbing you in the back. They start to resent needing you. And when they finally feel strong enough to stand on their own, they don't quietly walk away, they push you down. Because in their minds, it was never your help, it was your control. And your kindness, your vulnerability, becomes their excuse. They tell themselves, "You were weak." They say, "You were holding me back." They say, "You would have done the same." But you wouldn't have, because you were loyal. Here's the truth. Loyalty only protects those who know how to protect themselves. You made yourself open because you wanted connection. You wanted to be trusted. You wanted to be seen. But in the world of power, being seen is dangerous. The less people know about you, the harder it is for them to betray you. The less they can predict your next move, the harder it is for them to control you. Machiavelli never praised transparency. He praised control. He said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few know what you really are." That's not just a warning, it's a strategy. Show kindness, but don't be soft. Show trust, but never lose control. Be open, but only reveal what you can afford to lose. Because once someone knows how to hurt you, they already have the knife. They tell you to follow your heart, to trust your feelings. But emotion is the easiest way to blind yourself. You don't see betrayal when it smiles at you. You don't hear lies when they come from someone you love. Emotion turns your enemies into friends and your manipulators into victims. It clouds your only real weapon, your judgment. Machiavelli didn't write for those seeking comfort. He wrote for those who seek power. And power does not allow emotion to rule, not because it's cruel, but because it's efficient. When emotions control you, you make weak decisions. You forgive too fast, you ignore warning signs, you tell yourself someone's intentions matter more than their actions. That is how betrayal begins. Because those who betray you already know, your heart is the weakest part of your armor. They don't have to fight you, they just have to move you. They get close, not through threats, but through warmth. They give compliments, copy your values, mirror your pain. And because you crave connection, you think it's real, but it's not. They're not connecting, they're calculating. Machiavelli wrote, "A wise ruler must learn how not to be good. Not because goodness is weakness, but because the appearance of goodness can be used against you." Think about it. How many times did you ignore red flags because of your past with someone? How many times did you defend them because they were family or once helped you? How many times did you say, "They'd never do that," but they did? And even then you couldn't accept it. Not because you lacked proof, but because emotion blinded you. You confused loyalty with nostalgia. You confused trust with hope. And you let them stay far longer than they deserved. You gave them one more chance, and then another, until the final one cost you everything. Emotion doesn't just block your judgment, it rewrites it. It tells you, don't be suspicious. It tells you, you're overthinking. It makes you silence your instincts just to keep the peace. But peace built on blindness never lasts. And the connection you're protecting is often the rope tightening around your own neck. A Machiavellian doesn't reject emotion. They study it. They don't let feelings guide decisions. They let feelings guide strategy. Because people use emotion as a weapon. They cry when caught. They act hurt when they're guilty. They call you cold when you finally detach. And if you're not careful, you'll fall for the act. The modern world glorifies the heart. Machiavelli glorified the mind. You think love makes people stay? No, power does. You think kindness creates loyalty? No, need does. You think honesty keeps you safe? No, strength does. The problem isn't that you felt. The problem is that you acted only from feeling instead of understanding. You trusted because you were lonely. You stayed because you were afraid. You opened up because you wanted connection. And in doing so, you handed them the blueprint of your downfall. Emotion is the storm that blinds the battlefield. You can't see who's beside you and who's aiming at your back. You mistake the knife for a gentle touch until it's too late. Machiavelli never asked you to be heartless. He asked you to be master of your heart, to feel, but not follow, to love, but not lose control. You were taught that trust is the foundation of relationships, so you gave it freely, quickly, blindly. But Machiavelli would laugh, not from cruelty, but from truth. Because in the world of power, trust isn't a virtue, it's a risk. And unmeasured risks become disasters. You thought trust made you strong, that believing in people made you good, but it only made you vulnerable. You forgot one rule: trust must be earned, not given. When you trust someone without leverage, you hand them control. You give them space in your world without making them earn it. And most people, once they get something free, will test how far they can go before you stop them. Machiavelli understood this perfectly. He didn't say, "Never trust." He said, "Trust with calculation, not emotion. Trust based on pressure, consequence, and incentive, never on words. Ask yourself one simple question: what do they lose if they betray me?" Because if the answer is nothing, you're already in danger. People don't stay loyal because of love. They stay loyal when loyalty is more rewarding than betrayal. If betraying you gives them more power, more gain, and no punishment, they'll do it. And then they'll call it moving on or doing what's best for me. Meanwhile, you sit there, shocked, hurt, confused, not because they betrayed you, but because you never required accountability. You trusted too fast. You believed their words. You thought past loyalty guaranteed future safety, but past loyalty is like yesterday's rain. It doesn't water today's fields. Machiavelli taught rulers to rule with caution, not emotion. He said, "A prince must act as both a lion and a fox. The lion uses strength. The fox uses strategy. Trust is a battlefield where you must use both. Give people just enough trust to keep them close, but never so much that they can hurt you without consequences. Reward loyalty, yes, but betrayal. Punish it quickly, severely, and publicly. This isn't about revenge, it's about prevention, making betrayal too dangerous to attempt. But you didn't do that. You gave people power easily. You told them your fears, your secrets, your weaknesses. You let them close because they made you laugh, because they said the right words, because they liked the same music. That's not trust, that's naivety. And in a world where power is currency, naivety is always exploited. Think about how you choose whom to trust. You trust those who remember your birthday, who check on you, who show affection. But those gestures are performances anyone can fake. A smile costs nothing. A hug proves nothing. Even an apology can be a tool for manipulation. What truly matters is this: what does someone do when they can gain by hurting you, and they choose not to? Not because they love you, but because betraying you isn't worth the risk. Until you see that, trust must stay locked, like a vault. You don't open it with words. You open it with patterns, with history, and with leverage. In Machiavelli's world, people are not demons. They're opportunists, traders in the market of loyalty, exchanging devotion for advantage. If you walk into that market without protecting your assets, don't be surprised when you walk out empty-handed. Trust is not a gift. It's a contract. And a contract without consequences is worthless. Once you understand this, you stop expecting loyalty because you were kind and start building systems where betrayal costs more than it gives. You were betrayed, yes, but not because the world is cruel, not because people are evil. You were betrayed because you misunderstood loyalty, because you let your heart outrun your mind, because you trusted without leverage, because you revealed what should have stayed hidden. Machiavelli never promised a fair world. He promised a clear one. A world where betrayal isn't rare, it's normal. Where loyalty isn't built on love, but on power, structure, and gain. Where emotion is respected, but never obeyed. Where trust isn't given, it's calculated. You were taught to live by ideals, but ideals made you blind to strategy. You thought people would treat you how you treated them, but they didn't. Because they didn't see your goodness as strength. They saw it as a weakness, something to use. And when their moment came, they acted. Now you stand at a crossroads. You can grow cold and stop trusting anyone, or you can become something greater. A strategist. Someone who sees clearly, expects betrayal, not with fear, but with preparation. Because in a world built on power, only those who master perception, who hide their intentions, who reward wisely and punish quickly, who know when to speak and when to stay silent, only they remain untouched. Remember Machiavelli's timeless warning. A wise man does not trust too much, nor love too easily, nor forget too quickly. Now you know why people betray.